Works. Dish Network, Channel 9415, Free Speech TV, 9410 Link TV, which is also on Direct TV, Channel 375, and we're video and audio podcasting at democracynow.org. Our headlines are also available in Spanish to read and listen to at democracynow.org, and for any radio station to take, as over 200 are. We're talking about Honduras. We're in Tegucigalpa with Dr. Juan Almendarez, who ran against President Zelaya in 2005. He now heads the Honduran Peace Committee. In our studio, we're joined by Nick Kozloff, who's written a series of pieces on the Honduran coup. And we're joined at the gates of Fort Benning, Georgia, by Father Roy Bourgeois, founder of the School of the Americas. Watch. Juan?
Dr. Almendarez, I'd like to ask you, here in the United States, many of the mainstream press reports are saying that the political leadership in Honduras is saying that the coup was actually legal, that it was President Zelaya who was attempting to usurp the Constitution, and that there was actually a legal arrest order against him. I'd like your response to that and how you see this in terms of who is on firm legal footing here.
Well, I would say that that is a lie, that the people are supporting the coup d'etat. That's not true. What people are supporting are people, almost some military reserves, some people who are from the ruling class, and some people who are in favor of repression against the people. So they really don't have a support. They have a support of the torturers, perpetrators, and some people who are leading this movement are people who were trained in the School of America. So we have to emphasize on that. I mean, this is a militaristic mind. These are people whose ideology is really backwards. It's so terrible. I mean, and they have been responsible of the human rights abuse in this country. So, of course, there is a kind of policy trying to confuse the international community. But here is very clear. What is the reason to have a coup d'etat if you have the sympathy of the people? Why they oppose to have just a legal survey to ask people whether they want or not to have a new constitution? So there is no reason. They are desperate. They don't want to give anything to the people. We are really in a terrible injustice in our society. So all these arguments are very weak when you confront reality.
And interesting that you talk about democracy, Dr. Almendarez, because Roberto Micheletti, who was sworn in, many say illegally, as the new president, actually ran for president in the primary, right, against Zelaya and lost. It was close, but he lost. I wanted to turn...
Violated before the Constitution many times. They have been violating the Constitution because they have the power. They have the armed forces. They have the police. So all this kind of thing has been really, the people are not supporting. And I would say our people has a really courage because we are really living a terrible history of repression in Honduras.
Dr. Almendarez, I wanted to turn for a minute to Father Roy Bourgeois. By the way, the latest news, the World Bank president, Robert Zoellick, said that the World Bank has put on hold aid to Honduras during the political crisis, which he cautioned might be a setback for the region. Father Roy Bourgeois, you're right outside Fort Benning, where what used to be known as School of the Americas is the new name WINSEC. What is the connection between WINSEC, School of the Americas, and the coup in Honduras?
Well, first of all, we're not surprised, that there's a connection to the School of the Americas, now called WINSEC. This school is well known in Latin America as a school of coups, a school of dictators, a school of torture. There is a direct connection, which we expected. The two main players in this coup in Honduras that ousted President Zelaya are two generals, well-known graduates of the school. General Romeo Vasquez, who's the commander-in-chief, the head of the military, not only a graduate, a two-time graduate. And of course, also General Luis Suazo, a graduate of the school in 1996, who's the head of the Air Force. This school is well known in Latin America, again, as the School of Coups. Whenever there's a massacre, cases of torture, human rights abuses, we have been able to document a direct connection to this school. This school has trained over 60,000 soldiers from 15 countries in Latin America in combat skills, all paid for, I must say, by the U.S. taxpayers. And we, of course, are, like so many, are outraged by this coup. This is a scandal. We're encouraged by the response, of course, from the international community and the tens of thousands in the SOA Watch movement, who are really walking in solidarity with the people of Honduras at this time and the poor throughout Latin America.
Father Bourgeois, I'd like to ask you that this reminds me very much of what happened years ago in Haiti, where you had basically a military coup against the illegally elected President Aristide, and where a Democratic administration, President Clinton, condemned the coup leaders, as has President Obama, at least in this in the early days here, but where the U.S. military was playing a different role, in essence, had its own ties with the established coup leaders. I'm wondering if your response to how this has played out previously throughout Latin America, these kinds of coups.
Yes, you're talking about Haiti. The main players in what happened in Haiti were trained not at the School of the Americas, but at Fort Benning at that time, who were very involved in ousting President Aristide. I don't know what to say other than, this school has a long history. For this reason, many of us are very familiar with what happened in El Salvador and many other countries. The high-profile cases, Archbishop Oscar Romero, the 6 Jesuits, the four U.S. church women who were raped and killed. All of these cases, along with the thousands of others, they have been graduates of the U.S. Army School of the Americas, now called WINSEC. I'm happy to say that just last week we had in Congress a vote. Last week, the House approved an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, which would force the Pentagon to release the names of the graduates, including their rank, the courses taken in the country of origin. For the last 5 years, they have refused to give us these names, all in the name of, national security. While they talk about transparency and democracy, this school is an obstacle to democracy and this sea change that's taken place in Latin America. Very important also, we have an upcoming bill, H.R. 2567, in Congress. This bill will suspend all operations at the school, and there will be a full investigation about this school and its hundreds of graduates who have been involved in these atrocities and coups. 11 dictators have gone through this school. Whenever there's been a coup like this one in Honduras over the past decades, there has been a direct connection to this school. And we are calling on our members of Congress, and we want President Obama to get involved here. He has the power to shut down this school of assassins, this school of coups, this school with so much blood on its hands. He has the power to close this school by executive order. That's why we are appealing for people in our country to write President Obama and tell him, as he talks about a new relationship with countries, let us also involve these countries of Latin America. Let us have President Obama close the school.
Father Roy Bourgeois, the legislation that you say was passed in the House now has to be reconciled with the Senate version, which doesn't have this amendment that would require the release of names that you at School of the Americas Watch have relied on before the 5 years that you haven't been able to get them all of these years to show the connection between what these soldiers do when they go home. Just a little background on Father Roy Bourgeois for our listeners. listeners and viewers, first went to School of the Americas soon after Archbishop Oscar Romero was gunned down, assassinated March 24th, 1980. And you took a boombox and went onto the base and broadcast the last words of Oscar Romero, the speech that he gave specifically to the Salvadoran soldiers, urging them to, saying, I implore you, I beg you, I order you, stop the repression. You broadcast his voice, and you were arrested and served 1.5 years in prison. But when did you actually set up SOA Watch right outside School of the Americas? I don't think most people know about the Jesuits killed. I don't think most people know about the 4 churchwomen in El Salvador that were killed.
Amy, a small group of us came to the main gate of Fort Benning at the beginning of 1990. It was right after the massacre of 6 Jesuits in El Salvador, well-known Catholic priests walking with the poor there in their struggle, along with their 2 women co-workers.